Cold aisle, no power. I used to think data centers were too engineered to be haunted. Everything has a label and a twin, A side and B side, N+1, of everything you could name. Air at 68 degrees, slicing down the cold aisles. Hot air herded back overhead like livestock. I'm 25, the overnight site tech at a Tier 3 facility out by the airport. No windows, too much halide light, badges and man traps, and the hum you feel in your teeth. My job is simple. Walk the rounds, watch the DCIM screens, keep the cracks honest, and never open a powered rack without a second tech present. 2 more rules from my lead. Ramon, never silence an alarm you didn't cause. And don't walk a hot aisle alone after midnight. He laughed when he said that last one. The laugh didn't stick. By 11:12 p.m., the building had settled into its one breath. The generators slept with their block heaters on. The UPS rooms smelled like pennies and laundry. And the badge reader at the mantrap had decided to be fussy about everyone's timing. I printed a cable label for a customer who swears their old cross connects reproduce at night. The Brady printer chattered, spat my label, then spit an extra narrow strip I hadn't TQ'd. Do not power cycle. No job ticket, no cabinet number. Along the perforated edge, ghost gray numbers that weren't my hour. 3 to 13 am. I stuck the strip to the bezel of the monitor because paper is a superstition that keeps hands busy. The first odd sound was polite. 2 knuckles. On glass, from down in row. C, measured, tidy. Not expansion ping, not a loose blanking panel. I palmed my badge through the mantrap, waited for the second door to like me, and stepped into the white. Cold sighed out of the perforated tiles like manners. From the end of C, another tap-tap Murray answered itself. Thermal, I told the hall, because declaring causes helps. Row C runs in a straight line the way prayers do. Halfway down, a single cabinet door, S maglock, ticked, and then behaved like it hadn't tea. Through the glass, I watched server fans paint blue the way cities do at night. As I leaned, a handprint bloomed on the inside of the glass, 5 long ovals and a round heel, and slid on down an inch before it thinned. No one was in the aisle. Condensation has nowhere to come from in here. It came anyway. The overhead speaker we never use clicked. A voice came through, slow, careful, like someone lowering each word into place with 2 fingers. Don't power cycle. Not Ramon. Not the knock. That retired museum voice all cities keep for announcements they wish were facts. Back in the control room, the DCIM alarm bar hiccuped. Unknown load, PDU B3, and cleared before the beeper found its nerve. The trend graph drew a tooth at 3:13 and corrected to 11:24. Like a child caught with its hand in the sugar, the label printer coughed a second strip with damp edges. Leave rack doors sealed. I did the rounds because walking puts rules in your legs. Battery room A hummed like afternoon cicadas. The camera in the mantrap blinked for 1 frame with a palm against the lens. 5 ovals, a heel. Then remembered how to be glass. In the lobby, the server in the access kiosk displayed the time as 3:13. For a blink, and then had the decency to be 11:31. Again, between rows F and G, the hot aisle containment doors shivered against their magnets the way a sleeper scratches. Ramon S. rule rattled in my pocket like coins. Don T. walk a hot aisle alone after midnight. It wasn't midnight. It's always midnight down here. I pushed through anyway because customers think their equipment will notice if you avoid it. The air hit me like a dryer's breath and pressed behind my ears. Halfway down, Something knocked twice on the raised floor under my boot, measured. Patient. I crouched and pressed my palm to a tile. The tile pressed back with a cool that felt like someone else's hand. The badge reader at the far end dinged and turned green for no card. The door didn't open. It just agreed with nothing. The building changed its mind about sound, not quieter. Aligned. Cracks blowers, UPS fans. The tiny transformer that makes exit signs thousands of miles a night, all breathed on the same beat. In that held chord, the PA cleared its throat and said in the same careful weight, "Leave the doors." Row numbers in our facility skip from 12 to 14. Some superstitions sneak through budgeting. I know that, and still, when the laminated aisle sign at the end of 14 flickered 14, 13, 14, I stopped so completely that the floor took custody of my heels. In the reflection on the cabinet glass next to the sign, I saw my own head, and a second one, half a beat behind it, turned slightly, mouth parted like it had reached the first half of "Don't Audie," the man-trap buzzed. The inner door nudged a hair, as if a badge were being very polite. No one came through. The printer in the control room fed a third strip. "Do not open, floor tile." The L of tile looked rubbed with a thumb before it printed. At 12:06, the Anak pinged me in chat, tiny lowercase. "Hello, you alive?" I typed, "Yep," and watched my reply timestamp itself as 3.3, and then remember, 12:06. While my stomach invented a small weather system, I radioed Ramon out of reflex. His voicemail grabbed it with the affectionate indifference of a man who sleeps. Between G and H, a cold aisle. Brightened. Not with light, but with attention. All the blue LEDs in that run seemed to nod toward the glass, like a field of small animals deciding the same thing. The mag lock on cabinet H11 clicked and didn't open. From inside the steel, I heard tap tap. Polite, like a guest at the wrong door. "Closed," I told it, and the door settled like a person choosing to believe me. The DCIM list through a route I've never seen. Manual trip request. EPO Stuku. We don't touch the EPO unless careers are on fire. The red mushroom by the door looked new and hungry in that light. The PA, soothing itself, tried another line. "Don't go down. The only down from here is the plenum under the raised floor, where cabling lives in disciplined nests and sometimes remembers it as a mouth." I turned to leave the aisle, and my reflection lagged. The cabinet glass kept a faint smear in one corner, like fingerprints in dust. When I wiped it with the hem of my shirt, the smear refused the cloth for 1 second, and then gave up like manners. At 12:23, a customer S remote hands ticket hit the queue. Server in C07 unresponsive after midnight patch. Please reseat. Power cycle if needed. I have reseated 100 things at 2 a.m. while other people slept. I went to C07 with my hands rehearsing the safe part of the motion. The printer spooled a fourth strip, edges damp. Do not power cycle. Again, as if repetition were the only way to earn me. At the cabinet, the ID badge in the corner window showed their asset tag, like a throat, snug and correct. The KVM didn't answer. On the control room screen, that rack ISPDU drew a little tooth at 3:13 and smoothed the lie. I keyed the maglock and didn't open. Instead, I leaned in until my breath fogged the outside and watched a handprint fog the inside to meet it. 5 ovals and a heel, sliding an inch as if to practice the idea of gravity. "We're not doing this," I told air and policy and a machine that had never learned words. At 12:41, the building decided to stop pretending it wasn't one thing. The hum tightened, sharpened, became a note you could balance a cup on. The UPS room LEDs flickered together, once like a coordinated heartbeat. The PA, kind, exhausted or I was, said, "Leave." It sealed. I wrote "Quiet Night Yort" in the log, because forms love a morphology of lies. A ticket, like a weed, popped under it. Cabinet F02, door ajar. On camera, the door sat shut and virtuous. The system thought otherwise. I walked to F because legs don't argue as much as heads. Halfway there, the raised floor tapped under my boot. Tap, tap, conversational, then again 2 tiles ahead, then behind, as if something practicing, following, needed to hear itself do it. I held the door of F02 shut with my palm and felt pressure match me from the other side. Not hard, just there, like 2 hands through material, asking whether they were the same rule. The badge reader buzzed green for no card. In the control room, the Brady printer gave up one last strip into the tray. Keep eyesols closed. At 3:13, because some hours want a job, every fan in the white space kissed the same RPM for exactly the time it takes your heart to lose its place and find it. Apo 2. Request vanished from the DCIM list like a child ducking under a table. The aisle sign at 14 decided it had always been 14. The handprint on C07 thinned and went away like breath on a car window when you remember the heater. Shift change turned fluorescent into daylight by lying about it. Ramon came in at 6 with coffee and the expression of a man who has negotiated truce with many machines. "Quiet?" he asked. "Mostly," I said, and slid him the damp strips. He frowned at "do not power cycle," like a part number he couldn't T-drive to. "Printer's old," he decided. "The spell managers carry for nights they weren't awake for." He squinted at the DCIM blip and the EPO ghost. "We had a phantom EPO years back," he said. "A contractor left a test label in the loop, station 13E on the drawing, even though we don't number that way." He grinned the way you grin when you re-proud of a story you were reusing to keep your hands from shaking. I moved to days, a month later. I say it's for vitamin D and fewer tickets that say please reseat. In my apartment, sometimes the refrigerator fan knocks twice, like someone testing a rack door, and my laptop clock flips to 3:13. And back when I am not looking straight at it, the server tower under my desk fogs a thumb width high on its side panel for 1 second and slides an inch like it had learned to ask for something. When it does, I keep my hands off power buttons. I didn't press on purpose and say, in the steady voice the white space taught me, "Doors stay sealed. No power cycles." For a long, thin moment, the room hums in one key, the way the data hall did, and ahead I cannot turn fast enough to see leans toward my ear and practices the first half of Fur Donna T. Then, the fans remember their separate jobs. The clock resigns itself to honest time, and whatever had been learning my footsteps a half beat behind me chooses a facility with worse policy and lets me pass between rows like a person whose rules have done their work.
If you survived this far, leave your like to prove you are not afraid.